Hi, I'm Robin Rainbow Gate, author of Calling Myself Home, Living Simply, Following Your Heart, and What Happens When You Jump. 13 years ago, I followed my heart and my dreams to a tiny little village in the mountains of Mexico. It's not really that I followed my dreams, I followed my visions. It was something very specific and very clear and very unique in my life and incredibly special. And that's a story that you can read in my book, which I encourage you to do. Today I thought I would like to read you an excerpt from the book. And the little story that I chose is called Hanging Clothes on the Line. And I've chosen this because it's something that is so dear to me. It's something that is charming to me, inspires creativity in me, meaning washing my own clothes by hand and hanging them on the line. It's something that I seem to write about a lot. I've got a blog post about it. I have a course that stems from it. And so I'm going to read you this little story, and let's see what speaks to you through the story. I had just finished my morning yoga practice on the roof and moved out of the shade to gaze at the mountains in the morning sun. Between me and them flowed a cascade of flat cement roofs akin to the one I was on. Everyone dried their clothes on their roof, it seemed, and I was instantly taken by the multitude of bright, translucent fabrics swaying gently on their lines. That was, in fact, the defining moment when I knew I wanted to live there. Weeks later, my house mom, Yolanda, in Buena Vista, had given me a lesson on how to properly hand-wash clothes, for which I would always be grateful. I loved washing my clothes by hand, and when I returned to Mexico to live, it became a favorite aspect of my simple life. I washed with rainwater a couple times a week, and the rinse water flushed the toilet or watered plants in the dry season. I'd always been a natural water conservationist. In the suburbs growing up, I used to run to the sink when our maid kept the tap running while she cleaned out the fridge. I saw the water coming from Lake Michigan and knew that although large, it was finite. In my new life, I collected rainwater for the year. The water flowing from the roof down into my large cistern, accessible by a trap door in the floor, large enough that once full, lasted more than 12 months. What if it didn't rain? In Morelos and other regions of Mexico, certain people who were graniceros had the valued role and responsibility to conduct age-old ceremonies and pray to the local weather beings for a good growing season. To the campesinos, the necessity for and dependence upon the rain to grow the crops, maintain the animals, and feed their families was a literal and a daily awareness. Of course, this is true for all of us. But for me, growing up with the illusion of an endless supply of water from the faucet and food from the supermarket, the reality of survival didn't feel real. It didn't touch me, and that bothered me. Since washing clothes happened at the cement sink and faucet at the side of the house, and drying happened on the roof, I devised a system for hoisting my heavy wet clothes up with a pulley and pail. This eliminated the dangerous task of heaving the bucket up the steep metal ladder as I climbed. Hanging clothes was a practical and creative task. pinning the various sizes, shapes, and colors in an aesthetically pleasing order was play for me. Afterwards, I usually sat away from the dripping clothes, taking a few minutes to appreciate the panoramic view of the mountains and valley, with special interest in the progress of my neighbor's corn. One morning, while fastening clothes to the line, I thought, what could be better than this? And realized it's not what it is, it's that it is. It didn't matter what I was doing, it was that I was doing it. The marvel was that all this, my body, its sensations, the materials I saw, touched, and used, existed. I saw how we interact and are in relation through our piel, that's our skin. Those ephemeral yet real enough edges that distinguish and seem to separate us, though we are one, touching, feeling, and experiencing the differentness of you and me, inside and outside, this and other. Somehow, it was for this that all existed. The glistening of eucalyptus and mango leaves I saw from my door as I wrote in my journal. The tiny insects caught in a draft of air. The sun making blindingly silver droplets at edges of puddles, resting like exhausted lovers on my porch. New friendships emerging like small plants, soil still stuck on first false leaves. I hope you enjoyed that story from my book as much as I do. It really touches me. My life touches me so much. I hope that you'll, if you haven't already, get the book. It's available on Amazon, and the link is below. I wrote this book because I felt moved to share what I was experiencing because it was so different. It gave me so many insights and opportunities, unlike anything that I ever could have imagined. And I know now, because I've been here 13 and a half years, that I was brought here for a reason. I was brought here and was given these incredible opportunities to see a different way of living, to connect with the ancient traditions, which I hungered for, though couldn't name, and which was always missing in my life. And thank goodness for my suburban upbringing and family where there was no connection with nature, because it made more stark the contrast between the way I was brought up, which is perhaps representative in some sort of way with how many people are brought up in our modern culture. The contrast between that and what inside I knew was important and what was missing, not only in my life, but in our culture. And so now I speak to you from this other place, where sometimes I feel like I'm living in another time, to share with you what I feel is really important. I hope that if you have found this video, that you have found what I've shared here of value, that you will pick up the book at Amazon and read it and share it. I am committed and dedicated to helping others find their heartfelt, authentic life paths, knowing that each one is unique. I am not saying that everyone needs to live how I do, but I do believe there's a lot of value in what I have found and what I have to share for you and for the world. So thank you so much. Blessings.